Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and I'm back for yet another episode of Strategic Command, World War II, World at War. And we are about to end the September turn of 1941, if you're just joining us here. The Germans have invaded Russia. They actually invaded right on schedule, technically I think like 2 weeks early. And they are driving east, and they are inflicting quite a few casualties on us. They have gotten across the Dnieper River, which was the defensive line that we fell back to. But the good news for us is there's only 2 or 3 turns till winter, and the drive on Moscow will hopefully be thwarted slightly. We just destroyed a German corps here north of Dagofilis. We also very badly bloodied a German army here to the west of Vitebsk. That being said, I just realized the line between Moscow and Orsha is pretty thin. We've got 2 armies and a tank unit here, but the bulk of the German forces seem to be deployed in the north at the Baltic states near Riga, and in the south near Kiev, with multiple armor units here just to the west of Kursk. That seems to be where the bulk of the German forces are deployed, and that is where the majority of our strength in defense lies. Although there is certainly a likelihood, a very high likelihood, I would say, that the Germans will break out of this line in the next turn. But the hope for us is that they don't destroy too many of the units, that we can fall back in good order, and that we can establish a new defensive line somewhere in the vicinity of Smolensk, Kursk, and Rostov here, although that's a much longer line for us to defend. In any event, whatever the case, the hope is that Germany can't get to Moscow in the next 2 or 3 turns. And then in the spring of 42, the war in North Africa is going pretty well for us. We just destroyed the Afrika Corps infantry component. We destroyed their tank component. And unless there's anything else lying in surprise for us here to the west of El Gala, I think there's only a German artillery unit left in the fields of North Africa, German artillery being right there. But that's the situation as we find it in September of 41. The Chinese theater could also be interesting in this next turn as well, as there are a number of units that I perhaps advanced rashly and with perhaps not a well-thought-out plan. The Japanese have withdrawn a large number, 3 units here, 2 armies and a corps south to Nanchang. That has pulled them away from sort of their central offensive here, and they seem to be pulling to the east of China a little bit, but I am advancing in probably not a super smart way. I don't have a lot of strength behind my advance. If they concentrate here against Changsha or concentrate against this army unit, I've kind of broken my front up and made it much more easy, I think, to defeat. They're also going to have some success in the north near Paotao, where we've bloodied an enemy army, but we also have nothing behind our troops here, and our rear is a little bit exposed. So we'll see how things play out as we move into October of 41. U.S. oil embargo continues to hurt Japanese morale. Italian East Africa surrenders. We finally kicked the Italians out of East Africa there with the seizure of Mogadishu last turn, the Royal Navy being absolutely vital for that. Meanwhile, French partisans are disrupting supplies. That means the Germans aren't adequately garrisoning Bordeaux, which could be an interesting target for us to try and take. Axis radars are disrupting convoys to New Zealand and also between the U.S. and the U.K. USA has developed level 3 tanks because we just keep pouring more and more money into that R&D field. Scientists reporting progress in logistics. And there you go. The Soviet income's actually pretty big in this game, which makes sense. It's kind of the only way to deal with the masses of German attackers. Meanwhile, Run Fang, thank you for the follow. All right, so Greece is holding out way longer than they did historically, but it is pretty assured that Greece will fall. Oh, I forgot about the German destroyer we had cut off there. That was silly. I really should have not forgotten about him. Meanwhile, Paotao is brought back under supply. Japanese naval assets are moving here into the Dutch East Indies. That's concerning. Will be interesting to see if they launch their war on Britain. Oh, boy. You got to assume they're about to launch their invasion of Malaya if they're going to bring all these naval assets here just inside Singapore. I got to wonder if the Japanese are going to attack a couple of turns early against the Americans and the British. If the Germans want to spend their air units attacking Russian naval assets in the Baltic, I'm 100% okay with that. I would much rather they attack that than our troops who don't have anti-aircraft guns. They're attacking at Poltusk. They did drive our troops at Poltusk back. They didn't destroy them, but they drove them out of their position. And that opens up a hole in our line. Japanese army here in the south is attacking our armored forces. They're attacking the army here on the road to Orsha. Interestingly, that guy did pretty well. That Red Army in the mud there did pretty well that last turn. Japanese troops attacking Changchao, attacking through Riga. All along the front, the German offensive continues. I think the one thing that's working for us is in the southern half of Russia right now, you can see a rain front is moving through, and that means there can be no air attacks in any of these hexes here in the south, which is going to at least make things more difficult for the Germans. Not completely stop them. You can see they still were able to drive back a corps and destroy it there on the road to Kharkov there. There's a hole in our line there. Athens falls, so that's going to be the fall of Greece. Man, that defensive line here in front of Orsha is really doing well against these Germans. Even the tanks there were taking some pretty considerable casualties there. They did just drive that corps back. Presumably they'll destroy that guy, so another corps destroyed here in the south, near Konotop. Meanwhile, the troops in that fortification here to the east of Riga also destroyed, but actually there's reserves in the line behind them, so there's no outright breakout there. German armor trying to move here through the woods near Gomel in the center of our line. Do a little bit of damage, but nothing catastrophic. That was actually, if this is all that happens, and obviously the turn's not over yet, but if that's the extent of the German offensive, I'm pretty pleased. Now, the weather helps, but the fact is they did some damage, they destroyed some units, but they definitely didn't get a clear breakthrough. And that's something I think we can work with. Be interesting to see if we can counterattack that corps at what's the city that they just took up there in the north? The line holds for another 2 weeks. Actually, I guess the way the game works is they're 2-week turns each, so more like a month. Greece falls, gives the Germans more money. Last thing they need. I was really hoping the Italians would take Athens. The Italians did take Yugoslavia, which really makes me wonder what the economic impact of that is, because that means all the Yugoslavian income that normally in the game goes to the Germans goes to the Italians, and the Italians are far weaker. Meanwhile, the Russians lost the 1st and the 4th Corps. They also lost the, 56th Corps? Or wait, no. X is 10, right? So the 16th Corps? 3 Russian corps destroyed, basically, that turn. Meanwhile, the Japanese did not declare war, but you can see they're clearly moving their naval assets into position to launch an attack on Malaya and the Dutch East Indies. German cavalry detected in eastern Prussia. German submarine locations detected by American intelligence. Praise be the weather. The line holds. Monkas? I don't know what Monkas is. Is that brothers? Is that something in Russian? I don't know. You tell me, Charcoal. All right, so the 16th USS Army is ready to deploy. Good. We're going to deploy right here in the south near Konotop, so that'll instantly plug that gap. Meanwhile, a Indian paratrooper unit is ready, which we're going to deploy over here near Chittagong, because we're assuming we're going to need it against the Japanese in Burma before too long. Let's look at the Chinese front first. So, interesting. All right, so the troops at Changchao actually held pretty well. We'll reinforce them. Meanwhile, we'll continue to inflict some casualties. I don't really want to, I don't know what to do with this corps up here. It has 1 health and it's about to die. Meanwhile, Pao Tao, I guess we'll continue to attack north to try and throw them off. This army here needs reinforcements, so we'll do that. We'll pull this army back west because I don't want to get them destroyed. This weather should prevent more than 1 hex movement for any of these Japanese troops in this area. No, I didn't want to do that. We could drive deep into the heart of Japanese China, cut the rail line between Nanjing, the troops in the north, and the troops in the south would be completely cut off. rail lines, but it would mean likely sacrificing a Chinese army, which I can't afford to do at this time. Alright, so we'll continue to attack there. So we're doing some damage to Japanese headquarters units here. These guys are all in supply from this headquarters here at Ichang. The goal's obviously got to be to take Fuzhou, because that is a garrison unit, so it is more lightly defended, I guess, in theory. But we're having no success in doing that. So, rather than continue to reinforce failure here, we'll reinforce these troops. Move these guys here. Alright, so the offensive in the south is continuing. These guys have to be, they are in very poor supply. So maybe we can figure out some way to overrun these troops here, isolate these 3 units, and continue turning and isolating the Japanese in China. We'll see. Indochina, by the way, hasn't joined the Japanese yet, but when it does, that's going to open up another avenue for their advance into China, which is going to be difficult to deal with. I really wish I could figure out a way to... Can we do that? Yeah! Oh, yeah! Oh, yeah! Woo! We just destroyed a Japanese headquarters unit. Those things are worth like 500 MPPs. Hell yeah! That may also have some supply impacts on some of their troops in the south. Praise be weather. It's a better Twitch TV emote. Okay. Oh yeah. Good result there. If only I could surround the troops at Wuhan then I could maybe cut them off and destroy them. In any event, it might open up some options to hit at these Japanese airborne units that are definitely more valuable. This core unit's going to get shot to pieces if the Japanese attack it. I need like 2 more units in China right now. 2 or 3 more units is really what I need. I'm too concentrated in the south. Could rush these troops north. They're going to take a big morale hit. Also, the Japanese could land at Pakoi. Actually, the interesting thing here is once they go to war with the British, there's going to be a garrison unit that'll rise up in Hong Kong as well, and they're not going to launch an amphibious attack there. So let's do this. Let's move this corps here at Pakoi. We're going to move them to Changsha. We're going to move the troops at Canton. We're going to move these guys to Pakoi. We'll move these guys toward Nanning. Just shifting around some garrison troops here. So we can maybe move some troops further north, because that's where the real challenge is right now, is Paotao and Yangkou, all in the sort of northern section of China. That's where the threat is. We really need to hope that this advance here toward Paotao threatens the communists in Yan'an enough to come to our aid and give us a couple of free units there, because at the end of the day, that's what we want them to do. Okay, so that'll do it for the Chinese theater. For the Russian theater, we already placed our 1 army unit. I doubt the weather's going to cooperate for 2 straight turns. Reinforce these guys. I think we're going to move this armored unit here towards Stalino, because this corps is likely to get destroyed. At least I assume it will. We'll reinforce the troops here at Metropole. We'll attack this Hungarian army there. Wow, we drove it all the way back with 4 casualties and no losses on our end. That's a good result. Oh, shit. I didn't realize I just opened up a gap in my line. Well, fuck. That was dumb. So shifting some troops around. That garrison's not super inspiring there in Konotop to plug the gap in the event there is a breakthrough. We also just crippled this Brand Corps here. Brand Corps! Alright, we're not going to attack with them. Or them. Reinforcements are your friend. Alright, this Army Corps. I mean, ideally I could fall them back, but I don't have any reserves, so I basically have to reinforce them. Lose 60% of their experience, which then means they're almost certainly going to get overrun. They have only level 1 infantry weapons. I think what I'll do here is I'm going to take a little bit of a risk. I'm going to move this guy here. And I'm going to gamble that the Germans don't have the mobility. And I'll move an anti-aircraft unit south here. So I'm going to gamble that the Germans don't have the mobility to move through 2 forest hexes to break out. And even if they do, they're going to have to attack this anti-aircraft unit. So, anyway. Alright, let's reinforce here. Can we attack these troops at Politosk? No, we can't. Okay, not effectively anyway. Reinforce these guys. I would be happy to take a 4-to-2 casualty ratio most of the time, but probably not here. Same for our special forces here. They're going to definitely break through the line here next turn. The cavalry will plug the hole. Yeah, those are not good odds for any of our troops attacking. Alright, we're going to deal with the German interceptors here. We've got some escorts. Wow, 4 casualties there. Hey, we did some damage to the German armored units, though. 6-0? Really? Is that what happens when you don't have air escorts, I guess? But we're going to try and limit German supply by moving our naval assets up here. Okay. Going for the German Navy. Let's destroy it now. Boom! We just destroyed a German capitalist ship, which does have appreciable impacts to the German national morale. The Russian Navy, in a grand naval surface engagement in the Baltic Sea, destroys the German battleship Bismarck. Okay. So that's a good result. There's 2 headquarter units. All those headquarter units are full. So I think that's going to do it for our moving of units, but we are going to go ahead and we are going to research with the Russians. We're researching advanced tanks level 2. We're going to go ahead and research infantry weapons level 2 as well, because we can't really afford, and hopefully the winter that's coming up here in the next couple of turns will give us a little bit of a breather to be able to afford to do that. We'll see. I suspect more German advances here in the next turn, but then we will be in toward the winter. So there's 2 more turns at most. I don't think the next turn they're going to have to break through. So even if they break through, I don't think there's any way they get to Moscow before the winter. And that's really what you're playing for right now is the Soviets, is you're just playing to survive to the winter. All right, move that corps forward. They still haven't taken Sevastopol, so that's good for us. Meanwhile, in North Africa... the British artillery continues to pound the Italian garrison defending the city of Elagela. British naval vessels scout out ahead and determine that there are still more German forces. Rommel's HQ has not been destroyed, but he does just have 1 unit in sight. the Africa Corps artillery. Their supplies are weak. Tripoli is besieged by British submarines. All right, we'll move these troops forward here. They'll destroy the Italian garrison at El Agheila, which gives us a morale bonus. Move these headquarters troops forward. Defensive? How can you provide defensive artillery for yourself? That seems silly. I'm sorry. Oh, there's defensive artillery. From what? Oh, they're defending themselves. Oh, okay. All right. We'll move these French troops to garrison Benghazi, just because I don't want any sort of fluke attack in our rear. Oh, they still have their air units. I forgot about that. So the Africa Corps Air Force is still around. Oh, shit. I didn't mean to do that. I did it again! Alright, we'll pull the... We'll at least try and hurt their morale by incessantly bombarding them. Subs will move here. The morale might make more sense to attack Rommel directly. So they probably have an air and a ground attack unit still, would be my assumption. Alright, so now that we've done that, now we can start moving troops into the port at Mogadishu, I think. And transporting them. Move the army first. I think we'll move these guys up to Burba. That'll be more quick. More quick? That'll be quicker. Garrison it here to Kismayo. Move the other one to Mogadishu. Naval assets will move back. Well, maybe they should move to Ceylon. Ceylon! I know that's not how you pronounce it. Just because the Japanese are going to be at war with us soon. So having more naval assets in the Pacific might be worthwhile. Who knows what the Japanese will do. Alright, so that's the situation in North Africa. The Africa Corps is nearly destroyed. The British, meanwhile... I was all gung-ho on just like, attack! Attack, who cares about the casualties? And I just probably wasted a whole turn's income for reinforcements for our units to get us back up to strength. Yep. I did exactly that. Meanwhile, India has 210 points to spend. So I think we will purchase a corps. Well, we could go with an army. Maybe I'll wait on that. Or special forces. Special forces with level 2 infantry weapons. I can't afford that. What can we afford? Level 1? Yes, so we'll do that. An Indian Special Forces unit is on its way. Should have just named them the Gurkhas. They're not named that, but there's no fundamental difference, I don't think. Meanwhile, for the Americans, R&D. Man, the Americans are just tech-heavy, right? Just research, research, research. Heavy bombers should probably be research, though. And Blood Angel Veronas. Thank you very much for the follow. Anti-aircraft defense. I can't believe I haven't researched that at all. I definitely need to research that. And that'll probably do it for this turn. Interesting turn. Interesting results. We shall see if we can hang on to Russia. You've never seen this war game. This is Strategic Command World War II, World at War. It is a turn-based, hex-based, pretty basic but also big World War II strategy game that takes place on 2-week turns. Well, actually, really 4-week turns. So what happens is you play, your turn takes place over the course of 2 weeks, then the other side goes, but they're 2 weeks later. So basically you get like 1 turn a month. You can move around and attack in kind of a Panzer General-like way, while also having total control of the war effort for the most part. Random events come up in kind of in a little bit of a Hearts of Iron kind of a way, and you have decisions that you can make with that. You've got to manage the economy. Strategic bombing's a thing, tactical bombing's a thing, building naval units, all these other things are things. But this is a good point to wrap things up. We're probably about ready for the Axis turn to begin, so as we always do, let's go ahead and end this episode as we are. Hope you guys are enjoying. The Russian line continues to hold ever so tenuously, while the North African front is beginning to evolve very quickly into a decisive Allied victory. Until next time, however, this is the Historical Gamer, as always, saying thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'm out.